We're starting off this morning with some storytelling. And who doesn't like storytelling? If you don't like storytelling, see you later. Out the door you go. But who has better stories than the folks that come and pick us up when we screw up or when the universe screws up on us? And so we have 3 of our Teton County Search and Rescue members, stalwart members, to come up and tell some stories. And Tim Ciocarlan, I'm going to call on Tim first because guess what? He was one of the founding members of Teton County Search and Rescue. How many years has it been?
31.
31 years? Yeah. Long time. Thanks, Tim. You've seen some stuff. Yeah, and Anthony Stevens, Anthony always says, "Oh, you don't remember my name." I'm like, Anthony, I remember your name, and I'm a really big fan. Yeah, so welcome, Anthony. He's like, don't say anything else about me. And then Phillip Fox. Phillip Fox lives over on the west side with the rest of us. And look at Phillip. He cleans up real nice. But these guys are going to tell some stories, and Avalanche-related stories, and that's all I got as an intro. Gentlemen, have at it.
There we go. Philip does. Excellent. Good morning. I get the distinct privilege of starting us off. So we usually start with the worst and go to the best, right? So I will try to keep you entertained for at least 5 minutes. So we're going to introduce ourselves, just to give you a little background on us. My name is Anthony Stevens. I'm the training director for the team. Been in this role for a little bit. And really all that means is that I'm in charge of herding 37 cats.
He does a really good job of herding us. Anthony's motto is train big, rescue small. So we get this Slack notice on our website, and it's like, okay, we're walking how far today, Anthony, to go train? Oh, you're only walking 2 hours uphill for 2,000 feet. No big deal. He does that to us all the time, and I just shake my head after 31 years. I said, can't we just do this in the parking lot? But no.
I'm Phillip Fox. I started my search and rescue career back in 2005 with the Idaho team, and then did that for about 10 years. And then in 2015, joined the Jackson team, and I was fortunate to jump on with short haul, and I'm a short haul spotter and rescuer. That's me.
So I'm the old guy on the team now, which is unfortunate, but I was the young guy at one point in time. And in 1993, there was an ad in the paper that then Sheriff Roger Millward, Mike Delaney, one of the deputies, and the guy named Alan Merrill from Las Vegas, he was on a search and rescue team down there. He approached the sheriff and said, you guys need a search and rescue team, because Alan and a few local ski buddies were going out and muscling rescues out when they happened. No equipment, no training, they were just pulling it off as good old boys could do. So we officially started training. It was interviews in 1992 in the fall, and we started training, and we were active, our first rescue in April of 1993. For a year, Alan Merrill was the leader of our team. We had 30 volunteers signed up. He decided to become a sheriff, and they went away to the academy and kind of left us hanging. And I went to Alan, I'm like, wow, we need a leader. And he goes, great, you're it. So unfortunately, I had no idea what to do, but he dumped it on my shoulder, and I learned how to manage volunteers. And along the way, with everybody's help on the team, for 25 years, I was fortunate enough to be the leader. We built the team, and Cody Lockhart and Anthony and a few others are on the board now and run our team. And we've been very successful because we have really good teammates they're selfless. If you ask me or Anthony or Philip, hey, I know you're the expert on this one, go get some sandwiches. They just ask you mustard and mayo, and they're off. And we've been very fortunate that way, and I'm very proud of our team. My time's almost up, and I'm happy that there's a legacy, and I can look back with a lot of pride. These guys and gals do amazing things.
So Teton County Search and Rescue is made up of 37 volunteers, folks that come from kind of all walks of life. They leave their home, they leave their jobs, and they come and they help whenever that call comes in. It's a tight-knit group, and they train pretty hard, and there's a lot of dedication there, as Tim said. So what we want to talk about is give you an idea of how search and rescue operates from an operational level, right? What happens when that initial call comes in? How do we make the decisions that we make? It's always fun to talk about avalanches in a room full of avalanche experts, right? And we understand that there's going to be some, well, geez, why don't you do this and why don't you do that? And we'll try to answer those questions, but we'll also try to let you know that we have many tools in our toolbox, right? So what happens when a call comes in? All right, so somebody in the field, either through inReach, text, or phone, calls 911. And that's an interesting distinction. We get calls on the search and rescue line, so they're our standard number, that has nothing to do with 911, right? It's calling the office, it's calling Mike Estes. And so we want to try to educate folks that if you need search and rescue, call 911. The dispatch center in Teton County dispatches all first responders. So give them a call. It does a couple of things. One, it tags your location with GPS coordinates, so we have an idea of where you are, and then they can capture as much information. Yeah, please.
A quick note to add to the calling 911, text 911 when you don't have enough service. We have a beautiful function here that if you text it, it'll go right to dispatch and they'll have your coordinates. Or use our Backcountry Zero app.
So once that call comes into 911, dispatch pages the operational board, and that's made up of the leadership of the team, the chief advisor, the planning advisor, the logistics advisor, the training advisor, and the medical advisor. We get the call, we get kind of the details, we can ask questions to dispatch, we often get the number for the reporting party, and we make the decision whether or not this is a team page, a selective page, or we don't do anything at all. Okay? Once that decision is made, we page the team, right? And remember, like I said, these are all volunteers, right? They come from work, they come from home, so it takes time to get there. So if you're calling 911, do it sooner rather than later, right? It takes time for us to get there. Once a team is paged, the IC crew is usually made up of one of the board of advisors. Somebody will take incident command, and we start planning the rescue, right? So we'll do that so when the team gets to the hangar, we can start deploying them into the field. With that, when we're making those decisions, right, we look at things like the historical snowpack, right? We look at the area that they're in. We look at all of the concerns. We go to the Bridger Teton Avalanche Center's website, and we look at what the problem is for the day. We look at the historical, data and trigger points and things like that. We also have people that are on our team that are avalanche experts, and so we rely heavily on their decision making. Okay, the difference between guiding groups and recreational users is we are responding to an avalanche. We know that it's happened. We know that we're going into harm's way. So we make a decision whether or not we put our team, all of our team in there, or do we put a select few. And so having a helicopter allows us to make that decision a little bit easier. We can put people into hazardous terrain, but mitigate it with the best of our ability, right? Okay. All right, so this is the scenario that comes in. You look like you have something you want to add. You sure? Okay. This is always what happens, right? You make a decision, and Tim's like, I might do it this way. You're like, okay, let's do it your way.
I do have a problem with that, sorry.
It's okay. All right, so here's your scenario for the day, okay? We have a reporting party. Male calls in an incident on Taylor Mountain, which is on Teton Pass if you're not from this area, at 3 p.m. using his inReach. The RP is safe at the top of the slope, beacon turned on and turned into search mode, right? 2 known burials, 1 male, 1 female, with beacons on as far as we know, Okay. One notable surface signal, gloved hand sticking out of the snow. The other skier is still missing. The slide path runs through the hiking terrain. The potential hikers without beacons caught in an AVI path. And then AVI conditions for the day are considerable, right? Often when we talk about scenarios like this, people are like, who's going to be out there hiking, right? Well, if you go to Taylor Mountain, right, there's that trail, and a lot of snowshoers like to use that. Not every snowshoer out there intends to be in avalanche terrain, so they don't carry avalanche beacons. So we then, as the IC crew, try to make the decision, well, what do we send first, okay? We have so many tools in our toolbox. We have short haul, we have Reco, we have heli beacon, which these guys are gonna expand on later in this presentation. But because we have a surface clue, that's gonna help push our response to a helicopter insertion, and we're gonna use short haul, okay? Why we use it? Because it puts the least amount of people into harm's way. The reason we wouldn't use it is if weather doesn't allow, it's an area that we can't get people into, or it's way too dangerous to insert rescuers. But it's kind of our job, so we're gonna go if we seem that it's safe. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna fly and we're gonna recon the area. So if you are part of that group and you see the helicopter and you're like, God, why are they doing loops? It's not because we're like trying to figure out what to do or finishing our coffee or whatever, right? We're trying to ascertain where we can land to rig for short haul, whether we can insert people, and we're looking for clues as well. Okay, so here's something you might see out of the helicopter, right? This is an actual slide on Taylor Mountain, and you can see that there is potential hazard. There's still hang fire at the top. You can see that it goes into a pretty decent terrain trap at the bottom. So we're definitely gonna go for short haul on this one. Okay, conversations in the ship. The ship, when we deploy a short haul team, is made up of usually 3 members. Well, 4 if you include the pilot. He's kind of an important person in this one. As he always says, like, landing is always assured, getting off the ground's the hard part, okay? So the things that we talk about, right, there's a spotter who's in charge of kind of the crew and the mission at the time, and then there's the short haulers that go on the end of that line, right? And I know it looks super sexy out there to see the helicopter with lots of people, but when you're a short hauler, the first thing that you learn is that you're basically strapping yourself to a flying piñata, right? If you've ever felt that helicopter, you're like, I can't believe this thing can fly, right? So we talk about the risk, the dangers, and in this scenario, we're gonna go ahead and attach this special Y lanyard at the bottom of our rope. So it's different than the wide lanyard that we attach to the ship, and it's got metal in it, okay? So that we can put down into the field, 2 searchers can start digging and hopefully get a hold of that person. But we can be yanked out of there if something breaks or the pilot sees something or the spotter says, hey, something's not right, pull out, right? So we won't get away from that rope. We don't unattach from that. Right? So we go in, we find that surface clue, we start digging for them, and remember, like, we're going to dig at that person. We're also going to be doing our good excavation techniques to the best of our ability. Right? So you can imagine, all of you have probably done, plenty of digging and companion rescue. Have you ever done it attached to another person on a rope? It's like a whole different animal. Right? So it doesn't look pretty. So if you see us kind of fumbling around, understand we know what we're doing, we just look like we don't, okay? All right, so once we find that person, we extricate them. We'll either try to put them in a screamer suit. There's generally not time on this scenario to put them into a Bowman bag or a litter. We generally just try to scoop them up and get out of there as fast as we can. Yeah, so now there's just some sexy pictures of what short haul looks like. You can see that there's 2 people on the bottom. You can see the spotter hanging out of the door. Things that we look for are, is the helicopter going to be too close to the top that we could kick off more snow or hang fire? The spotter's also helping the pilot look at rotor clearance to the wall so we don't accidentally clip the wall. But this is how we insert people. There's another picture of it. More pictures.
We also learned along the way how cold one human can possibly get when doing this.
So this is just kind of a video for folks that haven't seen what short haul is. The reason that it's called short haul is that we're not planning on flying, all the way to the hospital with the person on the end of the rope. We're just going a short hop so we can either load them internal or fly them to an awaiting ambulance. Do you have something you want to add? Okay, great. So this is that litter Bowman bag. This is actually Phillip pulling a patient out. One thing that's super important to note is if this is happening later in the afternoon in the winter, make your call quick, right? We can't fly at night, and so we also don't want to push so fast that we miss things. Okay, here's some other tools.
Before you start, I'd like to throw in a plug to our folks, and I know Nick and Ryan are here from Grand Teton National Park, Jenny Lake Rangers. Just to note that our teams are completely entwined together. They do our rescues, we help do their rescues, we train together, and it's a blessing. This county is really lucky in that regard, and we're very fortunate to have such a good team. And they're in the crowd here tonight, so I'd give them a hand where they're at, right there.
Yeah. The quiet professionals.
So as Anthony mentioned, we have several tools in our toolbox. Another one of those that we use is what we call the heli beacon. This is a device that we carry with us on the helicopter when we're going into avalanche terrain. And it's a device that can be easily deployed while we're in the search area. So the way this works is we fly over the avalanche. We kind of realize that there's people who are buried that might be wearing transceivers. And we deploy this from the back of the helicopter. So we can easily slide the door of the helicopter open and then lower this device about 3 meters below the belly of the helicopter. We then plug this into our intercom system, so the device can be heard inside the helicopter just like a regular transceiver. So it provides both audio and visual signals. We'll start at the bottom of the toe of the slide, and then we'll start working a grid pattern, working our way up. We'll be anywhere between 5 to 15 meters off the ground, searching for that signal. Similar to like an old PEEP system, we turn down the signal as it gets stronger. So the team member in the back is controlling the module that gives us the audio and visual signals, and the pilot is kind of doing that search pattern. We'll turn the device down as the signal gets stronger, and then once we get to about 3 to 5 meters, we'll kind of start doing a low grid with the helicopter as low as we can get. Once we get to that lowest point, we have these weighted flags in the back of the helicopter that will drop out the helicopter door to mark the signal. From there, we'll either insert rescuers directly on scene if it's safe. We can do a tow in, drop rescuers off, or we'll fly to another safe location at the top of the slide to ski people in. We can also use short haul to short haul them in, or we might have other rescuers on snowmobiles who are skinned in that might be able to access that terrain and start digging them out.
Another tool we have, and you can go see Howie out here in the lobby. He's got a demo set up. We use Reco. Reco's pretty cool. It was developed in Europe for avalanche rescue, and you can see in the little handheld one, there's a thing called the R9. It's a handheld receiver. Many of the ski areas, search and rescue teams throughout the United States and Europe have those. There's also the hanging long-range detector that you see here. I think that there's 6 or 7 in the United States in total. So that is a device that emits out a directional radar signal. And if you all have seen the Reco clothing, there's 150 plus clothing companies or gear companies that are putting Reco into things. And I would seriously look at that or buy Recos, because what you're doing when you're doing that, you're making yourself basically from invisible in the mountains to visible. And you're making yourself findable should something happens. 2 different methods, like Phillip said. The handheld is like a avalanche transceiver. It shoots a radar, we wave it around, and it's a short range, up to about 60 feet or so. And but once we get the signal, we home right into it and walk right to it. That's if you have a reflector and not a transceiver. Reco doesn't replace any of those things like spot, inReach, telephones, transceivers. This is just another tool to make yourself findable. What's really cool is the long-range one. We can fly 60 knots, 300 feet, and searching a football field in width and length. We can search that in 3 seconds. So we can search 4 square miles in just a couple minutes, where you'd have hundreds of rescuers for hours doing the same thing. And And if you take a pitch on your mountain bike, you're in the woods and you can't get up and you have no way to signal us and you've got a Reco reflector, we literally just fly a path straight down the trail and we'll pick you up. So it's a really good tool to make yourself findable year-round, not just in the winter conditions. That's all I have on that. So, and he's going to go the same thing. We have all these tools. We may use them concurrently. We may use them one at a time. We may only use one. Rescues are really dynamic. Generally, when we plan a rescue, we think we know what's going to happen, and most of the time that's the case, but they're very dynamic, and half the time maybe, or thereabout, it's not the case, and we go to plan B or plan C. And so we have these tools in our toolbox to do two things, to help the people we're looking for and find them more efficiently and quicker, and make the rescuers safer.
Yeah, and I just, I noticed the note down here is something that's super important, right? We're only as good as the people that we work with on our team, and we're only as good as the partners that we have. So, big shout out to the Jenny Lake crew, to Snow King Ski Patrol, Jacksonville Mountains Resort Ski Patrol, Grand Tarkey Ski Patrol, Fire EMS. If I missed any, YDOT, they are helpful, like when we need information or assistance doing things. So there's a lot of folks out there, so, we appreciate all of them as well.
So after every accident or after every rescue, we have a debrief to kind of talk about what went well, what we can improve on, and so forth. So that happens after every mission. And a lot of times, some of the missions that we go on are very stressful to the rescuers. And so we always want to make sure that we check in on our teammates. So we have this kind of 3-3-3 rule that we go by. So we check on our teammates every 3 days, every 3 weeks, and then 3 months. Just to make sure that everyone's doing okay after the event.
Just a little bit more briefly on debriefs, just so you know, we go around, we get in a big circle, we have no egos, feelings. Everybody just wants to know, what do we do wrong? What can we do better? What should we do next time? How can we make it safer? And everybody gets a chance to speak up, say their piece, and we put those into hot notes, and we learn from them. And every rescue, we learn something.
Lynn's given us the hurry up, get off the stage thing. So just a couple things. Make sure you call early. The best thing you can do is not get into an avalanche, right? So education is super important. Listen to all the things that the presentations that you see here. Learn from that. Get education if you don't have it. And it's and search and rescue is free. So don't ever hesitate to call. All right, last but not least, if this sounds good to you all, the team is doing its new recruiting cycle. So we brought a class on 3 years ago. And so if you're interested, feel free to grab a screenshot of that. And come check us out.
Thanks, everyone.
Question for you all. Maybe time for one question after. And one thing you haven't mentioned that you might want to tell these folks about is the app, the Backcountry SOS.
So our foundation, Teton County Search and Rescue Foundation, hired somebody and developed an app. If you don't have it, it's a really cool thing. Backcountry SOS. You can find it on the app stores. And it has some pre-programmed canned messages in there, or you can add a text message. So basically, if you're anywhere you can text, you can quickly access your app, open it up, send an emergency message, or even chat a little bit. And it goes to the 911 dispatch centers. It's available in the regions now, and many places have it throughout Wyoming, Idaho, Utah, Colorado. It's free. and it works really well. It immediately gives us your location, so we can just come right to you if you need this.
Great. If you want to hear an excellent story about use of the app, there's a great one from a rescue that you guys did on up in Phillips Canyon of a guy that rode off the log and used the app. Matt, do you remember what number that story was in? 55. Yeah, if you guys don't listen to Matt's Fine Line podcast, throw that on your short list. It's educational and entertaining. Matt does a great job. The whole team does. So, room for one question before we move on. Ren, what you got? Hang on. Where's our room? The throw box.
This?
Yeah. Here. Somebody check this.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm just curious from the Canadian perspective, we have a lot of different SAR groups, and they either have to have like a CA level 2 and operations level 2 course to make assessments, or where I work with the Ministry of Transportation, we have an MOU with our Emergency Management BC, and the SAR groups can reach out to us, and then we can do a hazard assessment for the local SAR groups if needs. I'm curious, I know you do a lot of training. Do you have training requirements or certifications for when you're making those hazard assessments to go into that kind of terrain?
Guess that's going to me.
He's the training director, so there
Yeah.
it goes.
Certainly with our helicopter teams, they have a whole kind of mess load of trainings that they have to be able to be an operational short hauler. And like I said, we have folks on our team that are Avalanche professionals, so they've gone through their, Pro 1, Pro 2, they work in the industry, and so we use them to help us make decisions on terrain analysis and approaching. So yes, the short answer is yes, there needs to be a certain level of training for you to even be considered for this type of team. It's not team-wide, not everybody, not all 37 members have to have this training, but if you're going to be in the specialty teams, you need to have that extra training.
Any further questions on search and rescue? I'm gonna point you to these guys during the coffee break. I don't want to get us too far behind on our first presentation, but let's give a huge round of thanks for these folks. Thanks, y'all. And really a huge thanks in advance to all of our search and rescue volunteers, no matter which side of the path they might be on.